Prickly Porky nearly chokes. Chapter 8. Hardly was Jimmy Skunk beyond sight, a hearing and having made his call, than Red-Eye the Vireo, whose home is up in the tree just at the foot of the hill where Prickly Porky lives, heard a very strange noise. Yep, Jimmy Skunk had just left, and all of a sudden there was a strange noise. He was very busy, was Red-Eye, telling all who would listen how happy he was and what a beautiful world this is. Red-Eye seemed to think that this was his special mission in life, that he was to put in the green forest for this one special purpose, to sing all day long. Even the hottest of weather didn't stop him. When the other birds forgot to sing his little song of gladness and happiness, it never seemed to enter his head that he was making other people happy too, just by being happy himself and saying so, and saying that he was happy. At first he hardly noticed the strange noise, but he stopped singing a bit for a rest, and he heard it very plainly, and it sounded so very queer that he flew up the hill toward the place where it seemed to come from. And there his bright eyes soon discovered Prickly Porky. Right away he saw that Prickly Porky was in some kind of trouble. And it was he that was making that queer noise. Prickly Porky was on the ground at the foot of the tree, and he was rolling over and kicking and clawing at his mouth, for which a little piece of bark was hanging. It was such a strange performance that Red-Eye simply stared for a minute. Then at flash it came to him. This is what it meant. Prickly Porky was choking, and if something wasn't done soon, he might choke to death. Now there was nothing that Red-Eye could do to help, for he was way too small. He must get help from somewhere else. He must do it quickly. Anxiously he looked this way and that way, but there was no one in sight. Then he remembered that Unc' Billy Possum's hollow tree was not too far away. Uncle Billy could help. He hoped that Uncle Billy was at home, though, and he wasn't wasting no time to find out Uncle Billy was at home or not, and he went off. And when he had heard that his old friend, and he found Uncle Billy, and he told him, and as soon as he heard this odd thing about Prickly Porky was in trouble, he hurried up to the hill as fast as ever he could. He saw right away what was the trouble. "You keep still a minute. Just keep still, Brer Porky," he commanded, for he didn't dare go very near Prickly Porky with his rolling around, kicking around so, for fear that he might get some of those 1,000 little spears. Those little spears that Prickly Porky carries hidden in his coat. Now Prickly Porky did as he was told. Indeed, he was so weak from his long struggle, he was glad to just sit there. And Uncle Billy caught hold of that piece of bark hanging from Prickly's mouth. Then he braced himself and he pulled. He pulled with all his might. For a minute the piece of bark held. Then it gave way all of a sudden. And you know what happened? Uncle Billy fell over flat on his back. Yes, sirree. Uncle Billy scrambled to his feet. And then he looked reprovingly at Prickly Porky. And Prickly was laying there, panting for breath. And it was big tears rolling down his face. "I certainly am surprised, Brer Porky. I certainly am surprised that you should be so greedy that you choked yourself," said Uncle Billy, shaking his head. See, here's a little picture of Prickly and a possum pulling out the bark out of his mouth. Well, Prickly Porky grinned at him kind of weakly and rather foolishly and said, "It wasn't greed, Uncle Billy. It wasn't greed at all," he replied. "Then what was it?" I asked, demanded Uncle Billy. "I thought of something right funny in the middle of my meal, and I laughed just as I started to swallow, and a piece of bark went down the wrong way. And then it was a mere thought of the thing that had made him laugh before. It was just too much for him, and he began to laugh again. Ha ha ha! He laughed and laughed and laughed until finally Uncle Billy lost patience. "You certainly have lost your manners, Brer Porky." Prickly Porky wiped the tears from his eyes. "Come closer. so that I could whistle Uncle Billy. And a little suspicious, Uncle Billy, he came near enough to Prickly Porky to whisper. And when he had finished, Uncle Billy was wiping tears of laughter from his own eyes. The end of chapter 10. Of chapter 8, there's chapter 8. God is great all the time, all the time. God is great.